Hey folks, this is Philip with the Everyday Fighter podcast, where we share stories and insights from everyday fighters just like you. Today, I am super excited to share with you my conversation with Chip and Glyn Ann Townsend. They are what I would call a martial arts power couple. They have a thriving martial arts organization, primarily in Texas, but they have locations in other states as well. But even in their own rights, just individually, they are very accomplished martial artists. Both of them have world titles in breaking. So as far as like breaking boards, concrete, baseball bats, you name it, they both have been very accomplished in that. But what we talked about and what I'm really excited to share with you is their relationship as a couple, because they run a business together, obviously, as well as, being married and having children, having a family life. And I really wanted to dive into the conversation about how they manage that. And they were so gracious to be able to share their perspectives and their experiences with it. I mean, it really was just a joy to speak with them about that and get their insights. And if you are considering working with your spouse, or you're already working with your spouse and wanting some tips, then I highly encourage you to listen to this conversation with Chip and Glyn Ann. But before we jump into that, I wanted to get into our episode spotlight. Now, as a reminder, these spotlights are not sponsored. These people, for the most part, have no idea who I am and definitely do not know that I'm doing this. But once in a while, I'll run into organizations or individuals that I think they're just doing great work in the world, and I want to share a bit about what they're doing. Today, I wanted to talk to you about Rocksteady Boxing. Now, this is an organization that has chapters all across the United States, but what they do is they work with individuals that have been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Now, if you're not familiar, Parkinson's disease is a condition where people start losing control of their muscles and body movement. It's actually what Muhammad Ali had. But what the science has found is that the more that people with Parkinson's are able to work out and to do a lot of physical type things like working out, etc., then they're able to help stave off, if not reverse, the symptoms of Parkinson's. And Rocksteady Boxing does it through boxing training. It's some of their before and after stories have just been amazing, and nothing short of amazing, and I highly recommend that you check them out. You can get more information about them at rocksteadyboxing.org. That's it for today's Spotlight. Let's jump into the conversation with Chip and Glyn Ann Townsend.
What got me started in martial arts, whenever I was 3 years old, I lost an eye. So I have a prosthetic eye. And whenever I was like 5, 6 years old, they took me out to play Little League baseball. And basically the coaches were afraid to let me play because they didn't want me to get hit in the face. So as I grew up kind of early on, there were some limits put on me by other people around me. And, but my mom had an older brother who boxed. And so at times my mom would be like, I want you to be a boxer. So my parents are amazing, kind of an old school home. And anyway, I just had kind of an interest in martial arts. And people ask me, what got you interested? I don't think it was a movie particularly. It wasn't like a Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee kind of thing. My mom would talk to me about, she had 4 older brothers, and they roughhoused, one of them boxed, and they did some different stuff like that. And so I think that kind of intrigued my mind. And then realizing as a kid that having a prosthetic eye, other people put limits on me. And I don't know, one day we were actually driving down the street we're sitting at right now, whenever I was 13 years old, and we drove by the martial arts school, and I just kind of looked over. And I said, Mom, I've always wanted to do that. And we lived about 20 miles out of town. So it was like we only came to town every now and then for, supplies basically. And she says, okay. And she turns around and we pulled in and she signed me up. And I've been here ever since, almost 35 years later. So
That's great.
And for me, I actually never thought about martial arts at all. I was, we knew each other in school. We'd grown up together.
She picked me up. She was older than me, just so you know.
A very small amount.
Sorry. I figured that was important for people to know.
Yeah, I'm sure. Kidding. So I never really it was not on my radar at all. But whenever I was a senior in high school, he got on my radar. And so we started dating, and he was already a black belt, and he would show me stuff, and it was like, okay, this is actually kind of fun. And it went from there.
Progressed from there, yeah. We dated for several years, and in that process, she had coached gymnastics. She was an NCAA All-American cheerleader and athletic, and so I would teach her stuff, and she was like a sponge, and we dated for years and ended up getting married, and life moves on. And so that's kind of our beginning, I guess. And
so it wasn't that I had an interest, but I'm so glad that he said, hey, you should try this. And that I'm not, I know that there are wives of school owners that have never even tried martial arts. And man, I can't imagine life without it.
Mm.
So. Yeah, it's like so much a part of our lives. So, the backstory is we got married whenever I was 19 and she was 21. And, and so, we made this agreement because we got married kind of young. We were both in college, and agreed that one of us would work, one would go to school, and we'd both finish our education. And we felt like it was a necessity. And in my family, my parents finished high school. No one ever got a college degree. And so kind of blue collar, hardworking entrepreneurs, actually, business owners. And so we, in that process of early marriage, she's working, going to school. I decided to go on and just work full time. The opportunity came up for us to take over our school. But in the process, I was having her come to class and train. Encouraging her to, hey, go train, go learn, and I wanted her to learn the way I did in the school that I learned in. So that's kind of the background. And then I got the opportunity to buy our school, which at the time was 1995. We had, there were about 50.
4 years.
Yeah, we were married for 4 years. We had about 55, 57 students on the mat when we took it over. Of course, my instructor told me there were like 75, so, and Glyn Ann at that time was up in her red belts, not quite to black belt yet, and she was still in school. And so we took our whole life savings short of a few bucks and basically bought a rented building, not bought the building, but bought a rented space, some old junky equipment, and a handful of students.
And a stack of student cards.
A stack of student cards that, that were supposedly on the mat training, right. And kind of ran with it. But pretty quickly the school began to grow. And, I was very dedicated. It was like a dream come true for me. I was like, wow, I get to live a dream here. And so we took off with it, and she graduated from nursing school. She's a registered nurse and only nursed for about a year and a half-ish, but our school was growing so much that I was like, I need your help. And so she started coming in and helping me teach in the evenings, and kind of was already anyway. And eventually I was like, I think we can make this work. And we agreed she'd quit her job, and that's just what we've done ever since, man.
Wow. I think kind of one of the keys to our success is whenever we started, we were too young to have we didn't have enough
sense.
It's kind of that ignorance is bliss. We didn't have any idea that we could fail. We were like, that this is not, we've got this. And kind of that, the tiger by the tail, we were running and we were going to go and it was going to succeed. And I think that really, in the beginning, and then it's carried us through that mindset of, we got this.
Something, and if you want to please cut in any time, but the reality is this has been heavy on my mind for a year or so since I heard it in a sermon, and it's, where your most powerful thoughts go, your life goes. And to her point, we were so young and so full of life and excited about what was happening, that we didn't have an exit plan. We never thought about an exit plan. We didn't have an exit strategy. Failure just wasn't on the radar. It was like, why could, this is going to fly. So that was kind of our beginning.
So I have some funnies about, like how Chip got into braking and that sort of thing. So whenever we first took over the school, he was up here day begin, day end. He would be here and I would, maybe at school or was at work or whatever. And he would be sitting in the office, and it was the time of, there really wasn't email. There definitely wasn't texting. So you were waiting on that phone to ring, and he'd be like waiting on it to ring, waiting on it to ring, waiting on it to ring. And it was like, and then it was that little bit of downtime, and downtime is dangerous. And he was like, I wonder if I could break a brick like this. And so he'd go, I could leave the office and go try something new. I'm like, you did what? You did what? And so that was kind of the beginnings. You'd always broken. That's part of our curriculum. You break at your belt testings and that sort of thing. So that had always been a part of it. But like some of the crazy random stuff that he came up with was in that downtime, sitting in the office going,
they say
I wonder.
The idle mind is the devil's playground, so gotta stay busy and stay focused on the right things.
Oh, yeah. So instead of reading books, I'll only just break some stuff instead.
Exactly.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't have a staff. I didn't have a team. It was just me. I would open the door, school, get ready, teach a class, and then sit in my office and try to figure out how do I get the phone to ring? How do I get people to come in the front door? Because I was hungry to share martial arts with anybody that would make that phone ring. And at that time, you're so hungry and you're so excited. You're closing almost 100% of any phone call that happens. You're getting them on the mat. You're booming. And of course, that's creating growth, which creates other pains. But in that downtime, I didn't have a partner to go to the back and go, hey, let's go work on our sparring, or let's go, you had a hanging bag, you hit so much, and you walked through your forms and your self-defense is in the mirror, and you went, hey, I wonder if I could break that over there. So anyway.
It was in those experiences that you learned the value of warming up before you hit something hard.
I might have shocked my body a few times not warming up correctly. Yeah.
That's fun. Well, it's interesting. I mean, that's first of all, it's awesome. I'm wondering, where did it fit in terms of, because you both had the agreement, you're going to work and go to school, right? And particularly, I don't know if it was the same for your family, Chip, but like as far as they didn't go to college and stuff, they're just working, they're entrepreneurs. Okay, now here, if it was a big deal for them that you were going to college and then you'd do different things, or was that on your, like for both of you, you had the agreement. Was there another vision that you had and then this martial arts thing just came into it, or how did that play out?
Yeah, so interestingly, whenever I was about maybe 14 years old, I was a red belt. So I was a few belts away from black belts, and I'd been training consistently for a long time. And one day my instructor walked by and tapped me on the shoulder, and it was in his office. I was rarely in his office, but I was sitting there for some reason. And he walked by, and I just remember he touched me on the shoulder, and he said, someday I think this may be your school. And he just walked out. And this is a powerful lesson for school owners, I think, and for people who want to move forward. Number one, be careful what you say, because our words carry tremendous power. But plant seeds, plant them early and plant them often. And what he did, and I don't even know if he realized it, is he put a seed in me. Because I loved martial arts so much, and I'd become so passionate about it at that time, that when he said that, my immediate thought was, yeah, right, okay, whatever. I'm a kid, and so flash forward, I'm in college. You had just gotten married, and my instructor and I were talking one day, and he said, hey, I think it's about time to start talking about you maybe taking over the school. So I don't know that it was really like my vision at that time to be a martial arts school owner. I think I thought, like most people used to and maybe still do, that this is just a little niche hobby thing that you can't make a living at or you can't do professionally. which I adamantly disagree with now. But so anyway, my vision and what had been planted in me by my family was, you need to go to college, you need to get a degree, you need to go to law school or go to medical school, make a lawyer, make a doctor. And that was the plan, and my parents had awesome intentions, but and even being entrepreneurs themselves, I don't know that they realized the power of entrepreneurship and the freedom it provides, the lifestyle you can create with it. So anyway, with that said, I think the plan for them was to see somebody in our family go to college and make something of themselves. But the reality is they had made a ton of themselves, and I don't think they realized it. Yeah. And they touched many, many, many lives with their business and what they did. And so I think that was kind of the vision. And so it was in our mind, oh gosh, we have to go to college. And so when we got married, we made that agreement. And at the time, and I could make a little more money working a normal job. And so Glyn Ann worked part-time and went to school until she finished. And then when she finished, before she finished, the school opportunity came up to buy it. So we had scripted together some savings. And so we took all of our savings and handed it to my instructor. I signed a paper. We basically handed our life over and just said, we're going to go for it. And I had not finished college. She actually hadn't finished at that point. And so by the time she had finished, we had grown the school tremendously. We were making a decent income, and we were getting to a point where I was spread. It was really hard to do it all, and I was needing help teaching because our classes were just growing. And so she comes in, and over a period of time, she nursed for a couple of years, and we realized, well, gosh, if we continue to grow our school, your income is nothing compared to what we can develop. Plus, we love what we do. We love being together. And I think that's another unique thing, Philip, I struggle with marriage and couples sometimes, because this is another passion of ours. Is so many people say, well, I'm married to that person, but I could never spend all day with them. I could never work with them. And in my mind, my messed up head, I think to myself, then why did you marry them? I mean, she is me. We became one, man. And, hurting her is like cutting my own finger off.
Well,
it just doesn't
both
make sense.
Better together. We do more, accomplish more. We complement each other verbally, but also like just in everything. I like our word this year, together, is unstoppable. And that's just kind of our word for the year. We'd like to do a word instead of a resolution or whatever, but we're better together. But that's not against anyone that
not at all, because different things work for different people. Yeah. But for us, together is better. And through the years, our 27 years of marriage, we've watched family after family split, broken homes, husbands running off, wives running off, and you kind of step back and you look and you go, they put themselves in situations that offer them the opportunities to mess up. And so by us living together, working together, having a career together, I'm not off with the guys from my job doing something. You know what I mean? It minimizes some of those chances to be a fool, is the way I look at it.
Well, and then there's somebody that might be listening to that and be hearing, oh, okay, so you guys don't trust each other. And they're hearing that, they might hear that, pull that out of that and be like, oh, we all have to be together and so that's actually the farthest from the truth. But
yeah. So don't mean to get sidetracked into the marriage piece too much, but the reality is we're Christians, and when we got married, we went into this covenant agreement with God and said that we are going to complete each other, and we, I think, have taken that pretty serious. Now, do we fight? Yes. Do we disagree? Yes. But I think we've matured to a point to know that when we get a little tense, we give each other some space, breathe a little bit, and we know that fighting doesn't accomplish anything. So
when you realize that you're on the same journey, you have the same goals, and it's like when you realize that just because we may disagree on this little small thing, in the big picture, we're moving. The horse is moving in the same direction.
In 5 minutes, 5 days, or 5 years, are we going to be thinking about that thing we disagreed about? Probably not.
Exactly.
We're still going to be thinking about our big picture vision, our family, our kids, God, where we're headed with life. You know what I mean? So, and hopefully, if we do that well, we can help other people to do it too.
Glyn Ann, I want to back up a little bit because, I mean, this you were in school, you know, you had for nursing.
Right.
What was that like for you? Did you have something in mind? Okay, well, I'm going to be a nurse and we're going to go from here. And then this opportunity comes up. Did it feel like you were being pulled away from something, or was it more of like you're attracted to something else now? What was that process like for you?
Honestly, it was a relief because I felt really, I do have my nursing degree, but I honestly, I loved parts of it, but I don't miss it. And I know that sounds, it's like terrible, but that's the truth.
Can I speak to that just a little bit? I think that it was kind of, groomed into us that we needed to get a career, find a career that makes a good living and makes money. Everybody needs a nurse. They're always under demand, and you can make money and shift differentials, working night hours and all these things. And so I kind of think in a way, because honestly, Glyn Ann, not to get off track, but we complete each other because I'm black and white, man. Make it clean, make it black and white, make it simple, and I'll tear it up. She walks in the room and goes, "We need a flower in that corner. We need something pretty on the wall here." And I go, "Okay, that looks nice. I don't disagree, but I wouldn't go out of my way to make that happen." So this is the part of that complete process. And Glyn Ann's true passion kind of was art, interior design, things like that. And that's what she was going to school for. But as we began to go, okay, we're going to get married. We got to get careers going. We need to make a living. So we're going to build a family. Okay, I'll do nursing. And I kind of think that's part of what happened.
No, that's exactly, because I started we had moved away to a different school and was going the interior design route. And I got scared that I don't know that I could actually make a career out of this and do this for a job. And, I don't know, probably need to find something that's a little more stable. This is something I could do on the side if I ever wanted to someday. But yeah, no, I don't think so. And so really rethought that, did the nursing route. I enjoyed it. I liked learning. We've done strengths finder tests, and one of my strengths is input. So I love, the knowledge and the knowing. I loved that. But I honestly felt more pulled to be at the school with Chip and to be. That's where I really felt like we had the biggest growth potential. And so I kept my license for a very long time. And honestly, this renewal, I just said inactive, because we've said, if something did change, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to go back to. I wouldn't feel safe going back to nursing. I'm not. It's been too long. So yeah.
Given that push from your family that you're feeling, maybe felt contrary to what was inside you, that maybe you didn't realize you had inside you at the time. What was that like for you guys, explaining this now new path? Well, not necessarily a new path, but just you taking this opportunity as a couple to your family and the people that have had kind of these visions, invested visions for both of you.
Honestly, I may step on some toes here, but whenever we got married, we never depended on our families again. In other words, my parents and or her parents, from the day we got married, let me be clear, when we didn't have a home for the first few months because we got married. We didn't plan. We were young. We didn't plan well, and so we lived in my mom and dad's house. We basically kind of house sat for several months because my dad was traveling, working, and my mom was with him. And so it kind of worked out. We lived in their house for a while. other than those few months, I don't remember 3, 4, 5 months until we found us a place and rented our own spot and got settled, we took nothing from my parents or hers. So my point in that is I don't think that when we made these shifts and these decisions, we would talk to our family. They were a sounding board for us and definitely got some, what are you thinking looks and responses, but it never affected our decisions to move forward. We didn't, I hope that makes sense.
We respected their opinion.
Absolutely respected.
Rely on their, on them to support us or, that.
I think it also goes back to, there was never, and this is, I would like to throw this out there as just encouragement to any young man. If you're going to get married, own it, and get off your butt. Don't depend on anybody, man. Don't depend on mommy and daddy to pay your bills for the next 6 months or to rent your house or whatever. Make it happen, man. That's what we live in the best place and time ever, man. Right. Make it happen.
Yeah, and the thing is, both of us had that hard work example set for us because my parents and his parents are both. They're both still, they're all four still here. They're all four, they've married. They're
over 50 years of
marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, and then, so we watch them work, and they're all independent work. They're entrepreneurs. My dad worked in the oil field and in farming. His dad worked oil field and has done several different, done insurance adjusting and like taken on multiple careers through that period and just taken them and ran with them. And so we grew up watching that and watching we're going to do whatever we can to make it work with both of our parents. So
how do you make those decisions? Because that's something that's everybody, whether they're a married couple, whether they're in martial arts or doing their own business or not. It's because you mentioned, yes, we discuss it with them. They're a sounding board, but there's a fine line, right? Or there's a fine line, like a huge gray area there in terms of like what you want and your vision, and then how much of somebody else's opinions you're willing to take on and to consider, et cetera. And I think for a lot of people, maybe one of the things that keeps them away from going down that entrepreneurial path or something that is very unique, like martial arts, right, is that they're taking a lot more of the outside stuff and bringing that on. How do you all manage that? Not even just back then, but even now. I'm sure you have decisions that you're all making both together, but then you look to outside mentors or friends or family. How do you navigate that?
So now I think we do something that we probably should have done more. No, not probably should have done, but should have done more whenever we were younger that we didn't do. Now we pray together and ask for guidance in the things that we do and guidance in the decisions that we make, wisdom in people in our lives in the right, to listen to that godly counsel, from friends that are trusted and mentors. Whenever we were younger, we honestly, if it was like, this sounds like a good idea, this is what I've always wanted to do, let's do it. It was more
caution to the wind, man.
Yeah, I really think it was more fly by the seat of our pants, and I think for the amount we tried to make educated decisions, but we were young, and I look back at some of the things that we I look back at some of the promotional stuff that we would make, and it was like, oh my gosh, this was like handwritten Xerox copy. Wow, we thought we were awesome.
Hey, we were awesome.
We were telling people we were awesome.
We were trying, baby. So I want to lean on that a little bit too, and I do want to say this, and I'm not trying to be a Bible bopper, but we've always followed God and been Christians, but in the last quite a few years, we've gotten much more aggressive in praying together as a husband and wife, and over our kids and over our decisions. And I've actually walked around our building countless times and just kind of prayed and said, let this be what it needs to be to serve people. Let this be what it needs to be to serve my family, to build a legacy, to but to be something in the end that is for good, And you can look at that any way you want to from whatever religious perspective you choose. I think it's good to, whether you're just meditating or whatever, but for us, we feel we're confident we're talking to God and we're asking for that guidance. But you said, how do we make those decisions? I'll tell you something, Philip. I don't make decisions to please anybody except God, my wife, my team, and what we need to move forward. And so when other opinions begin to weigh in, I try to step back and go, what is their skin in this game? How does this affect them? And discern from that, am I hearing what I need to hear or not hearing what I need to hear in this decision? But I understand your question, and it's a really tough one. When you're young, my ego stepped in and said, I don't need anybody. I'm going to do what I want. Now I like to think our decisions are a little more mature in that we step out and think, is that person really being beneficial with their opinion? How does it affect them or not affect them? How would that affect us? So really trying to think through that process and again, ask for that kind of godly counsel, and then reaching out to mentors. I have great mentors in my life, and I've been very intentional for the last 10 years plus, reaching out to people and going, hey, when you hit this point, I know you had to, what happened? And they go, oh man, Chip, when I did this big mistake. Why reinvent the wheel? Ask for guidance. And so that's another thing I think we've gotten better at.
I do think that there have been some things though that we have felt really strongly about. We need to start this, or one of them in particular was a black belt class. We felt really strongly that we needed to do. This was probably 25. This has been a long time ago, because we were we're starting to actually have more than a few black belts. Whenever we both came up, particularly Chip, there was never more than maybe 4, maybe 5 black belts in the school at all, ever. Now we have, probably 75-ish
active training just in our main location. Yeah.
And so, but we said, we need to do just a black belt class just for black belts, give them some extra attention, extra training, just extra. And you went to some of those mentors and they were like, oh, I did that. It's a terrible idea. It'll never work. I did it. Will never work. And we still felt strongly about it. And we are like, okay, so if it doesn't work, what's the worst that could happen? We just close the class. Okay, no big deal. Let's do it. And so we did it. And that's been continued, not, from then on. We've never let it go.
So a little bit of backside, we realized pretty early, whenever I was coming up, there were never more than 3, 4, 5 black belts ever at a time training actively on the mat. And, as we began to grow the school and had people coming up, getting close to that level, it's like, I would like to keep them here, keep them challenged and keep them growing and
get rid of that mindset of black. Your goal is black belt. Okay, that can be a goal, but that's not the goal. That's not it. That's not the end.
So anyway, like she said, we began to kind of go, maybe we could just have a class just for black belts once a week, something like that. And almost everybody that I reached out to, which one idea, it never works. And, you'll never have an all black belt demo team. Well, we have now for 25 years. You'll never have a black belt class that works. And we have now for 25 years. And what we realized is they're not us and we're not them. Maybe they missed something that we didn't miss. Maybe, so sometimes you just got to step out and go for it anyway, whether the advice is good or bad. And
honestly, just think about, okay, so if this doesn't work, what is the investment in this is just time. And okay, sorry guys, that didn't, we're going to have to close this class. Right. That's not that. It was not, there wasn't going to be, it wasn't going to be a painful thing.
Life or death for anybody.
No,
so
not at all.
As you all have started, you've been together for a long time, but transitioning from a couple, dating, married couple now you're in business together. How have you felt that both of you have had to grow the most? I mean, you mentioned disagreements. I think every couple is going to go through that. Where have you felt you've had to, I don't know necessarily change is the right word, but kind of grow and learn through like the biggest challenges as you've gone through? Where do you feel that those have come for you?
So I have one. I can't even imagine. This was probably 20 years ago that a young man brought in a Tony Robbins book, Awaken the Giant Within, and brought it to Chip. And I had read, but never been a huge reader. Chip had never been. We just, we read books, but I honestly can't think of, once we graduated from high school, really reading anything other than like a nursing book that I had to read or something. And so he brought this book in, was like, you need to read this. And I was like, yeah, I'm not. Okay, you read that, have fun with it. And that sparked an absolute, just a fire for self-development, self-improvement, leadership. How can I get better? And I was a late adopter. I did not jump in on that wagon for several years, but then now we are both voracious in continuing to improve ourselves. And the reason I think that is part of the process is because, it's the oxygen on the airplane thing. You can't take care of other people. You can't take care of your family, your business, your staff, your team, until you're taking care of yourself physically, at being active for one, absolutely, your nutrition, that sort of thing, but also just that personal development and continuing to grow and continuing to be, because, we are not the same people that got married 27 years ago. We're completely, but it's, 60 books a year, at least in the tank, whether it's audio or actual paper reading them, we're both driven to continue to improve. And that started with this one young man bringing this book to Chip, whenever it was pretty new.
It actually made me mad. Because he brought me the book, and I was like, who do you think you are bringing me this book? You know what I mean? He's just a high school kid at the time, and I'm a business owner. I thought I knew it all, man. So, and it, I guess, kind of ate on me as I sat there and looked at the book, because it sat on my desk for a while, and I picked it up and started reading, and it just like sucked me in, and I was hooked, and I was like, wow, it opened my mind. But you asked the question, what are some of the things we had to work on? For myself, I am an absolute bulldog. I'm a control freak. I am crazy driven. And what I had to work on is, still do, is letting go of the reins, backing away. Early in our marriage, from a marriage perspective, hearing Glyn Ann and hearing her perspective and understanding, where she comes from. So those were things that were kind of difficult for me, because in the beginning, man, it was like I kind of controlled everything. And luckily, she was patient with me as I matured and grew up. And I don't want that to sound like I didn't like beat my wife. It was just, I controlled the checkbook and, watched the money and the budget and kind of pressed the big decisions in the home.
Controlled it was like and this is the thing. We both grew up in, the husband is the head of the household. That is our household. He's the head. I'm the heart. We don't have to. I'm the heart of the house, and that we work together by doing that. But we both grew up in where I think trying to find that balance in how if you're the head, you've got to be in control of everything. And it wasn't. The other thing is, I hear people talk about how it was so hard in the beginning, and with us, it wasn't. It was just we were both kind of growing and figuring out, and it was like, you can operate the thermostat too. You can pay those bills now. You do that. We realized, what we could do together. So
yeah, I think it was growing. In Stephen Covey's words, from we were born dependent. Somebody had to change my diaper and feed me. My parents groomed me to be independent, where I could stand on my own 2 feet, began to provide for myself. And pretty early, really quickly, we were providing for each other, but we had to learn to be interdependent. And that was very difficult. And I fear that and feel that's where a huge percentage of marriages never make it to that level because they are too short-sighted in the beginning, too impatient with each other, maybe didn't plan well enough in the beginning. Now, when we didn't plan well, but now, I mean, I can literally, out of respect for my wife, and here's another thing too, I don't have my money and she has hers. We have never done that. And as we talk, I don't want people that hear this to go, oh man, these people are so close-minded. If that's what you do and it works for you, we love you, man. That's awesome. But for us, we just never felt like there was a his and hers. And, but in the beginning, we were both two independent people kind of bumping sometimes, like, I got this, I got that. And the interdependence piece where I could walk away from this half of life and know she's in control, and I totally trust her with that, and come back and she's done an amazing job with that piece. And then I went and did my best with this piece, and we put those together, it equals this, right, instead of us kind of fighting each other over control of everything. So anyway, I don't know if I'm making that clear, but I think that was difficult for me. And now, out of respect for her, I can be looking at a $50 pair of shoes and go, I'll call her and go, hey, I want to get a pair of shoes. What do you think? Yeah, whatever, and it's not that I need her approval, and she does the same with me, but because we have that level of respect and I think transparency too, there's never questions with trust. There's never questions with, I've never once ever come into my home and went, Glyn Ann, where did that $100 go? Ever. And so I kind of hope that makes sense. But for me, the growth was in learning to kind of let go, trust, and understand how a relationship meshes together.
I want to go back a little bit to what you mentioned as far as that young man coming to you about the Tony Robbins book. And Chip, you it's interesting that you mentioned your initial reaction to that, but then there was a shift for you, right? You said it was sitting on your in your desk for a little bit. What was that shift like? Because it's almost like flipping that side of the coin to, like, say, go from, I'm completely staying away from this thing. I don't know if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like, you were staying away from it to, like, let me pick it up. Let me see. What made that shift for you at the time?
I honestly, if I remember correctly, you remember earlier in our conversation, we talked about there was a lot of downtime in the office. And so in that downtime, I began to pick the book up and read. And it was a gift. And I didn't realize the value of the gift until now. And in the book, it's called Awaken the Giant Within. It's one of Tony Robbins' early books. And he talks about in that book, you have absolute control of your life. You have control of your decisions. You have, and at coming up many times, we're all groomed in the public school system and in life that you're only so smart and we're going to test you. Well, you weren't gifted, or, your IQ is only so high. Now it's well known, it needs to be spread, that your intellect changes, and you can grow that with studying and learning. And that book opened my mind to those things kind of maybe a little earlier than the curve, I guess, for the general public. But the thing that stuck out in the book that made an impact was, you will stay with something until you feel enough pain to change. You know what I mean? I finally get so heavy and out of shape that I'm having to go to the doctor. The doctor's forcing me to exercise. There's pain. I began to think, well, if I associate a little pain with a poor decision over here and go, and get control of that early, I don't have to get so out of shape. I don't have to get so behind on my bills. I don't have to get. So the book really opened my eyes to a lot of cool stuff. And then I went, gosh, I'd like to read more of this kind of stuff. And so I just began to pick up books and start reading, 7 Habits and 21 Irrefutable Laws, John Maxwell, all these things. And I just became a voracious reader. And then I tried to be an implementer, not just to read it and let it fly, but to go, how does that fit our life? And what do we do with it to make our lives better? So. And
Glyn Ann, you mentioned that after Chip had started, finally picked up the book and started reading. Then it took you a little bit of time, a couple years, you mentioned, to kind of get that same kind of, I guess, mindset or adopt that.
Right.
What caused you to make that change for yourself?
I was actually thinking, okay, he's probably going to ask me that. What got me started? And, I don't know if it was, I really think it was Chip just continuing to talk to me about the different things that he was picking up, learning, and seeing him go, this is, and I don't even, remember anything specific, but I don't remember a specific instance, but I think it was just kind of an over a period of time. He's talking about it, he's excited, and we've always supported each other in, different, if I have something that I want to do that's kind of random, he's like, yeah, let's do it. And same with him. I thought, okay, I'll try it. And then got hooked.
Yeah. I kind of think it was like, like she said, I'm reading the stuff, but I would want to talk to her about it sometimes, or, hey, I read this, or what do you think? And I think that just kind of spurred a little bit of interest.
And disinterested. I was like, well,
I don't remember which
you're talking about.
One you picked up first, but yeah, you finally picked one of them up and you read it. And then all of a sudden she's reading more than me. And I'm like, hey, hey, honey, don't get ahead of me here. Right. So my competitiveness kicked in. So I was like, I got to read more, even more now. Right. So
for you two, what is your focus now as a couple, as you're looking to today, and what your mission is, what you're looking towards in the future? What is that for you guys? What keeps you going? What keeps you excited moving forward?
So for me, it's, there was a point where it was just grow our school. Now it's grow our organization. So it's not just a local, just right here, but it's impacting people on a much bigger scale and that is then strengthening our team, the leadership of our team, the cohesiveness of our team, and how all of that plays into, but growing our impact.
So, a few things for me. Building a legacy. Mm-hmm. I want to say that again, building a legacy, but not for me, for future generations, I want people that hear this to go, okay, this is one of those God guys, but I want to leave something they can't argue with. I want to leave something that's so positive for our society, positive for my community, positive for communities out there, that they go, okay, there was something there, And so that's part of it. And like she said, developing our organization, building leaders. I can only teach so many kids on a mat at a time. But as I develop leaders, or we develop leaders, now he's got so many on his mat, I got so many on mine, they've got so many on theirs. We are multiplying our impact. And as I encourage and influence them to develop their leaders, now we're beginning a process of exponentiation in our ability to impact. And I think a lot of that starts with, we are exceptionally passionate about martial arts. We're exceptionally passionate about what it does for people, the benefits of it. And that's what continues to fuel that. But at the end of the day, when I stand in front of God and he looks at me and says, what did you do with your life? I just hope he's pleased with what we've done. And so that's kind of the ultimate driver. And then another huge piece of this for me is my kids. What model and what example do we set for my own personal children, but also all the rest of the children we touch? And how are we setting them up not to get a hand and build on that legacy, or go build their own? Does that make sense?
Because we both had, you don't really realize what you had as a child exampled for you until you're, 35, 40. You start realizing, oh my goodness, for me, it was my dad worked out of the home every day. My mom worked in the home, but anything that needed to be done, she was like, I'm gonna see if somebody will show me, like she wanted a back room retile. She was like, well, I'm going to have to do it, but I'm going to be sure that they show me how to do it so that next time if I want to do it myself, I can do it. You know, that's just one example of like the way that they operate. And it's the same for Chip. You know, his dad worked out of the home. His mom was working in the home and keeping everything organized, coordinated, everybody, you know, shuffled around and doing whatever they needed to do. So just that we want to are we doing things today that, you know, whenever our kids are our age, are they going to go, oh, you know, my parents taught me this. I watched them do this. Or, you know, or I watched them get flustered over, you know, how many email they had. You know, no, that's not what we want. We want them to have positive things.
Well, you know, we think we teach our children by sitting down and teaching our children. We teach our children by what they see us do every day. So they learn through modeling. They learn visually by watching what's going on and listening to conversations. And we've got to be very vigilant in how we handle those situations.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like I said, our goal is, you know, growing our organization, our leaders, our team, having big, you know, it's not like just getting through the day. Our goals are, you know, I want them to see us chase big dreams and chase, you know, and knowing that they can do something that they don't get up and hate every day. They get up and they absolutely go, pinch me. Is this seriously what we get to do every day? This is awesome.
I tell people all the time, I get to wear my pajamas pretty much anytime I want, man. So, you know, I mean, my karate pajamas, but it's still pajamas, right? So
that's great. Well, you bring up your kids there, and not only in terms of legacy, but I'm curious as far as you have 3 children. Is that right? How has you know, your life in martial arts and having this business, where does that come in with them? Is it such that you're like, listen, you're going to train, that's it, and you're going to be part of this business and that's it? Or like, you know, no arguments about that? Or like what's that dynamic like?
Well, I'd be happy.
I'm happy to dive on that too.
So our belief on that, we don't think that there is any other activity that does what martial arts does for people. Not that there are other activities that are not great, that would be actually, made better, that would be bolstered, that would be by being in martial arts. You know, if you want to be a great football player, be in martial arts. If you want to be a great basketball player, the footwork in martial arts is, you know, extraordinary. So for us, it's a non-negotiable. You are going to be in class. But the thing is, it's not a negative. You have to go to class. They want to be here. And do they want to be here every single minute of every single day? No. But we can frame it in a way that is positive, because we also don't feel like I can look you in the face and say, this would be the best thing for your kid. And they go, oh, awesome. Do your kids do this? No, they play soccer and they don't really do. Martial arts is really not for them. Why is it not for my kids, but it's for yours? That's so 2 different little pieces. But but again, I'm not saying anything about other activities. I think every other activity can be made better, and that's not the word I want to use, but I can't think of it.
Well, every other activity can be good if it's led well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
but I think martial arts can make you better at.
Football can be amazing for a kid if they have good coaching, a good support system. If they have, you know what I mean? It's not that. I struggle a little bit because, you know, when you're on a team, you have to have a team. Martial arts, you don't have to have a team. You can go in your backyard and practice anytime.
There's no age limit.
I think, okay, I've got 2 daughters. Oh man, I'd love for them to be running track and be awesome at shooting hoops. But man, the first time some guy grabs her by the hair and tries to drag her away, I'm not sure shooting hoops going to help her, you know? And I don't mean that to be facetious, but for me, it's just important that my kids learn how to stand their ground and be powerful people with a ton of humility and a servant's heart, basically. So, one of my pet peeves personally in the sometimes high-level school owners. And I say, hey, so what level are your kids at? Because I just always naturally assume their kids train. Well, you know, my oldest son tried it a couple times. It wasn't really for him. but sir, your marketing, or ma'am, your marketing over there says this is the best thing in the world for kids. Why is your kid not on the mat? So for us, we've always kind of taken that, I guess, a little personal. And it's like, if we're going to go out and preach in our community, and for me and Glyn Ann both, sometimes even on a world scale, I mean, we're how many people will this touch? We believe in what we do, man. And our kids don't have an options. And I want to touch on this a little bit. Our kids live a different life than the average kid. Our oldest daughter's actually a junior, although she's only in her second year of college, highly, highly accomplished so far. And she's a third-degree black belt. She's one of our main instructors on our mat every day. Our sixth grader and our fourth grader both train almost every day on the mat. And our oldest kid didn't get a cell phone until she was in the seventh grade. None of my kids, including my 20-year-old, has a TV in their bedroom. If they need to be busy, we encourage them to pick up a book, go outside and play, go check your chickens and make sure they got food and get their eggs.
Yes,
we have chickens and we live in town. I don't care. And so we've been very intentional with that stuff. So for another piece of that is when our kids go, oh, we get to go to class. It's kind of, we get to go to class. It's exciting. I'm not having to take the Nintendo out of their hand to make them go do something that's good for them. And but that can be a whole nother discussion. But anyway, our kids don't have a choice. We are their parents, so we frame things in a way that it's never get to class.
Yeah, it's never a fight.
It's always, hey, it's time to get your gear. It's time to get ready. Sometimes they're I'm kind of tired, or I got homework. And what we do is we go, it's okay. I got extra work I need to work on tonight too. We all have those things and we have decisions to make, but this is a part of your health, a part of your lifestyle. You got to go make this piece happen. And they go, okay. And they go to class. And so, anyway, that could be a whole nother major discussion.
Absolutely. Real quick, I wanted to touch on so that's them in terms of training. As far as like the business side of things, do you have visions or even like already had conversations with them about how they relate to your business and your organization and where they may fit into it, or maybe they just do their own thing later on or some other career, kind of what we talked about for you guys earlier?
Yeah. So whenever our youngest is a little boy, whenever he was probably kindergarten, 5 years old, he was sitting in a back office area and had his feet propped up on the desk, and he was kicked back.
One of our staff members' desks. He was sitting at their desk.
He was kicked back. He had his feet up back. And he was having a snack, and one of the instructors watching was like, Slade, what are you doing? You need to get your feet off the desk. He was like, I'm like the fifth owner of this place, so I'm good. I was like, oh my gosh, you did not say that.
Yeah. So
there's ownership there.
Today, my I said 20. She'll be 20 in a few weeks. But our 19-year-old, we have a 5:30 a.m. fitness class that we teach, kind of a little MMA style workout. We do all different kinds of stuff. And she came and worked out at 5:30 this morning. She had classes. She's off to college class. She'll be back here teaching this afternoon. Before she left, she and I had a short conversation about sitting down in the next few days to look at kind of our future vision, where we're headed as an organization. Because from the time she was very young, I've intentionally kind of planted seeds with her and her siblings that we're building an empire. You're going to be welcome to be a part of that empire. And we're going to need you if you want to be there. And I've never made it like a you have to be, but I've tried to position it so that it's something that they want to be a part of. And also that they understand that what mom and dad do every day gives us our life. That's how we eat. That's if we want an extra, that's how the extra happens. And to teach them from very early that they can contribute to that. We're kind of different, I guess, in a lot of ways. We don't do an allowance. I don't believe in paying my kid to live in my house. I personally think that it's the kid's responsibility to contribute to the home. Now, we've done things with our kids like we want them to be readers. All of our kids, at least a school year or two out of their young life so far, have all been million-word readers because we encourage reading with them. And I've done things, and we've done things like one time I set our oldest daughter down, and I now am beginning to do it with our two younger ones, and said, look, if I pick a book for you and I say, I want you to read this book because it's good for you, well, it says $19.99. This is a $20 book. When you finish this book, come talk to me, and I'm going to quiz you over it. And if I feel you've read it good, and I'm not like giving them a major test, just kind of talk to them about it, I'll pay you $20. I'll give you $20. You've earned that $20 by growing your mind. So it's our little book reading program we do with them. And so I started working for my dad when I was 4 years old. And we negotiated my first hourly wage at 4. And absolutely, you can say it was a joke, but it really began to teach me something early. And so we're trying to do similar things with them. You know, they obviously don't work for us. Our oldest daughter does, but our two youngers don't. But we engage them in activities sometimes and go, hey, you can help with this. You willing to do this piece? Yeah. And we try to help them to see that that's their contribution to the family, right? So maybe a little off track or different than what you wanted, but that's kind of how we view that. But I do plant seeds with them about we will have an organization that will need you if you want to be a part of it. And so, and our oldest daughter has taken that very serious. She actually told me this morning that it's her college professors in some way, forms, or fashion have relayed to her that they kind of think that it's kind of a joke that she wants to do this, that she needs to be, you know, focused on school, but she's outperforming almost 100% of anybody in any of her classes at everything she does. I don't know if that makes sense.
And they ask her
all the time,
where did your work ethic come from? Where did your your willingness to receive feedback come from? Where did your why are you not, that they're having to hold this one's hand to give them feedback? And she's like, look, would you just not sugarcoat it? Just tell me what I need to fix.
What do I need to do better? Right.
And they're like, where did you get that mindset? And she's like, grew up that way? Because she grew up here. She grew up in martial arts. Being willing, not being beaten down, but being willing to go, hey, you need to fix that. You're not getting your hips turned. Yes, sir. Fix it. There you go. Instant feedback. So.
Awesome. Wow. This was so awesome. So awesome. Chip Glyn Ann, thank you so much for this. I think this is going to be huge for people to find the way to it. And I'm sure that people want to get more of you two as well. How could they do that?
Okay. Honestly, the easiest way to connect with me is, or Glyn Ann, is on Facebook. I have a professional page, just facebook.com/TheChip Townsend. And they can web search Chip Townsend and find all kinds of stuff. And also we're really working to build our YouTube following a little more. And so it's also youtube.com Chip Townsend. So
kick tips and all.
Yeah, I put out kicking tips, breaking tips. We do pretty consistently do marriage tips and parenting tip type stuff. I don't know. We're kind of passionate about all those things. And, in the martial arts school, we see, so many, situations that we have a heart for, families that are struggling or broken homes. And so it's like at night, sometimes we go, hey, let's do a tip about this. This is something that might help people. So anyway, there's all kinds of content there, and we're constantly working to develop that content and improve it. So.
And even if they're in your area, you have a couple of locations that they would be able to train with you. Is that correct?
We actually have 6 locations. Okay. So we have Abilene, Texas, San Angelo, Texas, Sweetwater, Texas, San Antonio, Texas. We have Elk City, Oklahoma, and then we have a small, it's inside a church actually in Oklahoma City, a small branch. It's kind of serves a ministry, and the revenue they generate is not revenue. It goes into a ministry for it's a widow's ministry basically for ladies that have lost their husbands. So.
Chip Glyn Ann, thank you again so much for being on. This was fantastic.
Been a blast, man. Loved it. Had a good time with you. Enjoyed it.
Folks, I hope you appreciated that conversation with Chip and Glyn Ann. It was just such a great time for me. I mean, I enjoyed every minute of it, just their insights, but also just the way they played off each other, and just they knew each other so well. But they have their unique differences, as they alluded to, but they have the same goals, which I think is one of the big takeaways I had for this, is just making sure they have that open communication, but know each other and where you all want to go and get on that same page. So hope that was helpful for you. That is it for today's episode. This is Philip with the Everyday Fighter Podcast. We'll talk to you next time.